I can't find anything. The heck with it. I was going to run the old Wraith promo, but we've all seen it a million times, right? But I will say that the Wraith of God link to the campaign is in the description. So as you're watching this and thinking to yourself, should I like this? Should I subscribe to this? Go with your gut, like it, subscribe, because it helps the channel grow. And also, if you feel the urge, zip over to the old Wraith of God campaign and take a look. Those of you who are already contributors, I thank you for that. And also, I sent out an update yesterday, day before maybe, that I do have extra copies of the Garbage Man trade paperback that have come in to my possession. So they are available through this secret perk. So if you've seen the update come in your email and you haven't checked it out, that's where the link is to get the Garbage Man, trade paperback added to your existing order. And if you're new, I'm going to put up whatever's left over here in the next couple days. We still have, I think, about 50 copies available, somewhere in that neighborhood, 45. If those don't go in the next couple days, I will just put them up as a regular perk for people that are ordering, right now as an add-on. Right now, they're only available to people that have already ordered, because I want to get those people the books that they want first, and then, open up what I have left to everybody else that may come in late to order. But enough of that silliness. Let's see who's here. Well, practically nobody, and that's okay, because it's lunchtime with Aaron. It's a last-second live stream, unannounced. That's just how I roll. So anyway, we've got Leg Kick is here, because Leg Kick is almost always here. He's first again. He says, like a cap chosen out of Aaron's closet to keep his head warm. Isn't it the truth? Peter Orchid Studios. What's up, Aaron? Hey, Peter. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate that. Lady I almost said Celtic. Lady Celtic Moon is here. Hiya. Adelson Reese is here from Reese Art. Thank you for joining us. Sheldon Martin, I'm missing the Dennis and Andy show for this. Well, you've got to get your priorities. Although they may be talking about comic books. Maybe I should watch their show. Now I got to draw. Joe Bernardo, aloha, Aaron. Hey, Joe, thanks for joining us from Vegas, right? AJ's here. Hey, Aaron, just ditched Andy to come. Oh, see, now I feel I have guilt. I didn't know those guys were on. Anyway, there you go. Peyton Holden is still trying to get some mileage out of that joke. So let's give him what he's asking for. Yo. Geez, we have a bot already. Oh, crazy. David Renshaw's here. I haven't seen David forever. Hola for Florida. Is that from Florida? Are you in Florida now? Wow. Congratulations for getting out of Oregon, if that's true. Or if you're just visiting, enjoy it while you're there. Joe. I haven't seen Joe in a while. Thanks for joining us, Joe. Appreciate it. Actually, Shelly won't be joining us, but she told me to give you this. So, JP Roca's here. Oh, David invited me to come on out to Florida. I lived in Florida for 2.5 years, and I didn't want to move back here, but my wife, I had to keep the wife happy, right? What do they say? Happy wife, happy life, right? So she couldn't stand the humidity or the bugs and wanted to be closer to her family. And so who's no longer here. So unfortunately, her mother and father have passed away since then, and her brother and wife and has moved to Texas. So we're here by ourselves. Me, my mom. Actually, we have our kids. Well, my daughter's in Arizona, but my son is still here and his wife. So we're trying to figure out a plan for future moves. So we'll see. We'll see. Come on, JP, clean up the language. Let's see. Okay. All right. So what, if you guys remember, those of you who possibly joined me when I guess it was Sunday's show, I started a commission is the word I'm looking for, of Gwen Stacey. Because I'm trying to get back and doing some commissions. And then so I started this one, took the money for it. So now I actually have to do it. And then I sat down and realized the stuff I still had to draw for the Wraith of God campaign, which was the Ace of Spades playing card. I still have one more sticker to do. And I have the print that everybody gets. So everybody's getting the playing card, the sticker, and the new mini print. So all that stuff, everybody that orders gets one of those things. So they have to be done. So I'm like, wow, and not to mention, of course, I'm on page 53, 53 right now. Yeah, 53. So I still have 25 more pages to do of the book as well. So what the heck am I doing commissions for? I should be working on that stuff. But so anyway, I'm going to do this one commission, then I'm going to get back to doing what I need to do. And then when I get all that stuff done, then maybe I'll go back and attack some more commissions. So those of you patiently waiting for a commission, hang in there. No. Leg Kick digs my vintage Marvel shirt. Look at that. Marvel Comics. Oh, I think the dog's about to unleash an unholy screech. Let's hope not. Well, fast or diligent, one of the two. The book's going to be done in April, like I had hoped, and it will be done in April. And then hopefully, Gabe will be right on my tail, and we'll get the lettering done and get the book put together into the printers before the end of April, so that we'll be shipping at the very 1st of May. I mean, that's what we're all hoping for. So we'll see how all the pieces, fit together. But right now, that's what we're on pace for. So anyway, all right. So I'm going to switch cameras. I tested the lighting on this before I went live, just so everybody could actually see this. Now I want to show you, this is not what I drew on the Sunday stream. Actually, take a look at what I drew on the Sunday stream was this one. Okay. But why did I change it? Well, let me tell you why I changed it. I changed it because I felt that I got to open up my camera controls. It's always something. They were open. I don't know why they're not open now. Okay. So let's take a look at this. I just felt there wasn't enough energy in that pose. I mean, there is some movement in it, but look how in this one, Gwen is dipping her shoulder more. Her hip is thrown out just a little bit more. Her leg is kicking back just a little bit more. So it's basically the same concept, but I think this one's got more energy into it. And so even though some of you may look at this and say, well, that one looks good to me, I think this is the difference between, little things that can make something good and better. I'm not going to say great. I wouldn't be so pretentious to say that, but it is better. And it's better for those reasons. Maybe not necessarily drawn better, but because the pose is a little bit better, the energy is a little bit better, I think overall it's just a better piece. And that is why I'm going with it. All right, so let's get in there so we can. I will often do this with commissions. It's especially these color commissions, which are 11 by 17, and they're single character with a limited background. I usually charge like $375 for those, and so it's like I want people to, if I'm not happy with it, I'm not just going to send it out to get it over with. Betty Brandt is indeed old school cool. Leg kick is angling for more abuse. But I'm just going to give him one of those for that. Can't give out cannonballs, too liberally, or, everybody will get one then. Jiminy Cricket agrees with me. That new drawing flow is much better. Thank you so much. It is, there's a mental challenge, a mental aspect to drawing. But hey, Gary, thanks for joining us. Power up JBot. Dang, those lines looking clean, Aaron. Thank you, sir. Leg kick is proud that he earns my wrath. I was talking with some of the other CG guys, guys that are actually having, I'm going to start this off with a 0.8 micron. I think I'm going to do Spider-Man back here first. With some of the other CG guys, and ones that are like Malin and Graham Nolan that are having other artists work on books for them or with them. And we've kind of laughed about that it's one thing to be an artist and responsible for the job you've been given. And it's a completely another thing to now be the editor trying to get another artist to do what you want them to do when you want them to do it. In other words, meet deadlines. And we started talking about how many people want to be comic book artists or professional artists. And so they work at it and stuff, and they practice their craft, but they don't really understand how much work it is. And not work in the sense that you're out pouring concrete or doing construction work, and you're completely physically exhausted by the end of the day. But there is a mental aspect to this. And mental exhaustion does take its toll on you. And what we often find in the business, and one of the things that keeps people from getting to the next level, is actually having the ability or not having the ability to work like all the time. I've told this story before, but when I worked in commercial art, I had one of my mentors in the studio I worked in. He taught a class, like an extension course at Portland State University here in Portland, Oregon. And he gave this assignment in class, and there was a girl in the class, and she was just sitting there while everybody else, got out their pencils or whatever and started drawing. And he said to her, he goes, "Aren't you going to draw?" And she goes, "Yeah, I'm just not feeling it tonight." And he said, and that is the difference between a professional and a non-professional. And probably my guess is this girl never made it as a professional artist, because there's that aspect, that work ethic that, I don't just draw when I'm feeling it. I have to draw even maybe when I'm not feeling it. And you still have to draw well, So it's kind of the whole thing about letting emotions control you instead of reason and logic, not to sound like Spock, but an understanding that you have a job to do. And although again, it's not physically demanding to sit here and do this, it is mentally fatiguing. or it can be. And sometimes you find yourself just going, I'd rather watch TV and eat pizza than draw, which seems absurd to someone who, maybe has a regular day job and is trying to become a professional artist. And to think, oh my gosh, if I could just draw all the time, I'd be so happy. It's, a job is a job is a job to a certain extent. And you can very easily get caught up in the monotony or mundaneness of doing the same thing over and over again, even if it's art. So that's kind of my the moral of my story there, is that it's kind of funny how a lot of people overlook that aspect. And I have so many stories. I remember hang on a second now. You're just now finishing this? I'm just now working on it again. And if you got here on time, Past Master Dan, which you clearly did not, you would have seen that there was this, and I redrew it for this to get more energy in the drawing. So I've actually drawn it twice, and now I'm inking it. So, but I have to say that the old man comment is going to get you this. Let's see here. There you go. Shade Comics has been my dream since I was a kid. And that's fine. And I'm just saying that there is the aspect of the mental aspect of drawing that a lot of people, when there's no pressure on you to accomplish something, sorry, I left my pencils over there on the drafting table for when I was working on Wraith earlier today. There's that pressure, right, that you don't have when you're, like, say, doing samples, or you're doing your own thing, and you're finding your time in the evening to work on your stuff after you've done, like I said, maybe something else during the day. And there's no pressure there, right? No one's saying, hey, get this sample page done by Friday. You get it done when you get it done. But then when you get that job, that first job, that's when the pressure kicks in. And then suddenly you're on a deadline, and suddenly you start questioning everything you're doing. And I've told this story as well before, is that that pressure can be paralyzing, And when I first got my first work at Marvel, I was, my gosh, I was just, my work was horrible. And it's not that, I wasn't great when I first started, but the work that got published was way worse than what I was capable of doing. But I was just, my gosh, I was like, oh, I'm working at Marvel, and if I don't do this right, I'm going to get fired, which is true. And as a result of putting that kind of pressure on me, I actually didn't do that good of a job, and I did get canned more than once, and had to kind of go back and kind of redeem myself. And so it's amazing how that happens. Michael Golden was, and I don't remember the guy's name because I don't want to be disparaging to anybody, but they many, many years ago, when Michael was the art director at DC, and they had hired somebody, young guy, first job, and they were really, they thought his samples were really, really great. And they gave him this job in this Batman annual, and I guess he really, tanked it. And so Michael had to go in there, and Michael inked the story and kind of, redrew some stuff and moved some panels around for storytelling clarity and all this kind of stuff. And I don't remember whatever happened to the young man, that, if he remained in comics or if that was the only thing he ever did. I can't even remember his name, but But it just goes to show you, you can turn in these wonderful samples, and then when the pressure hits, you just like collapse like a bunch of broccoli. So again, it's just, I just think it's interesting and important to kind of point those things out, that that if you're angling to get a career in comics, whether it's independent or Marvel or DC or whatever. Gosh darn this lighting. You want to understand that there's a mental aspect to it that you need to keep in mind. And I feel like it every day. It's like, I don't want to draw. I don't want to draw. I don't want to draw. In fact, David Williams is in the house. I remember David and I would joke about, you always want to work on the thing you're not supposed to be working on, right? Because that has no pressure to it, right? So it's like if you have a job from Marvel or DC, but you're like, oh yeah, I got this idea for this great series I want to do. And so you sit there, and it's easier to sit there and draw that than it is actually the thing you're getting paid for sometimes. So, when you're starting to go, the dishes need to be washed. I'm going to go wash the dishes rather than, work on your story. That's when you need to stop and check yourself. But it is easy to do. But I have this thing called, that a lot of you guys probably have, called bills. And they keep coming every month. And it's like, that motivates me to work. But it is, someone had mentioned it earlier in the chat, it is fatiguing, years and years of doing this. It can get fatiguing. So you have to sort of look for new challenges and new things to kind of, keep your interest. And, like doing your own book or something like that, that's kind of that's something, that's new and different, that can kind of motivate you to get back on the horse and really challenge yourself. Let's see here. Shade Comics has always set a certain amount of time for me to draw, and I continue to draw throughout that time, not stopping to make myself feel better. There you go. I loved Gwen Stacey. I was so sad when she died. David is speaking some other language than English there. I want to get David on my show again on Sunday to show his, if he's got some work he can show from Truth, Justice, and American Way. And then when they launch, I'm going to have Gabe on to talk about it. So we want to give that book a big launch. It certainly looks like it's going to be a fantastic classic superhero book, which I know we all know and or all remember and love. Mustache Man Gray, I can hardly catch your stream. It's too early here in the Philippines. It's 5 a.m. Whew. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you being up to check it out. 5 a.m. is freaking early. That's for sure. All right. I wanted to clean that up a little bit before I started inking here. Now, what I'll do on these is I'll do an outline of the character, pretty clean. And then once I get it inked, I'll go in and color it and then beef up the line again afterwards, which probably is a bit overkill, at least in terms of, you know, the amount of work time it takes to do that. But if I colored completely with markers instead of using colored pencil, I probably would not have to do that. But colored pencils do tend to dull ink line a little bit, and so it needs to be juiced up. One of the reasons, the funny thing is that one of the reasons I don't use, you know, total marker coloring when I do these color pieces is because I'm too cheap to buy the entire set of colored markers because they're so freaking expensive. And so instead of doing that, you know, and plus I didn't really necessarily want to copy what Adam Hughes was doing and other guys were doing in that regard. So I thought, well, I'll use colored pencil because using the colored pencil is more like drawing anyway, and that's kind of what I'm more comfortable with, where using the markers tends to be a little bit more like painting, which I can do, but it's not something I do regularly, so therefore it's not something I'm 100% as comfortable with. And so I started using the colored pencils because I had, like, you know, hundreds of them just laying around here that I've accumulated since, you know, grade school. And I'm honestly, some of my colored pencils are that old. So I just sort of got into the habit of doing these commissions when they're in color as colored pencil pieces with a little bit of marker thrown in. And so then my commissions have a, well, I don't know, unique is exactly the right word, but they're kind of identifiable as being mine. Whereas maybe if I was, you know, just using full markers, I might end up, you know, being a poor man's Adam Hughes or something like that, which is, you know, not exactly my goal in life, to be a cheap imitation of somebody else. I'd rather be a cheap imitation of myself. You see, when you're making these lines, some of these longer lines, you want to be careful you don't move too slow because it'll get wobbly, and you can't move too fast or you'll lose control of your line. So you got to find that kind of happy medium. And a lot of times you'll lock your, you know, your side of your hand down and then curve like that, turn like that. That makes it a lot easier to sort of maintain that control. I try to segment it a little bit so you don't have these epically long lines that you're trying to do really smooth. I mean, some guys actually will use French curves and stuff, which that's fine. I'm too lazy to sit there and, you know, go dig out a French curve and match it to the curve that's on the paper. I think I've got enough control that I don't have to do that, so I try not to do that. So you can see it's coming together, but it's just basically a simple, you know, smooth inking line, much like you do in a coloring book. Because, well, let's face it, I'm going to color this, so the depth and the body and the three-dimensional quality that this piece hopefully will have when I'm done with it is going to be done in the coloring stages, not in the inking stages. You know, as opposed if this were, you know, black and white, I might use a lot more line work to create volume where when I know it's going to be, you know, that I'm going to be coloring it, that I can just do the outline and then create the volume with the color when I get in there with that. Not that, you know, I think this does have some weight to it and some three-dimensional quality. I mean, that's kind of the idea you want. You want to capture that while you're drawing in this stage, but I'm just not going to do it with line work and shading with the pen and do it with the color. I wish I could control the exposure better on this camera. It really gives me fits. It doesn't do what it's supposed to do. You'd think a guy that spent time in film school would have some clue. But I was not really a technical guy. I didn't really pay that much attention in the technical classes that we had at film school. My focus was on writing and directing. I really wasn't a very good student once I got out of high school. It's kind of like I paid attention to the stuff I wanted to pay attention to and then sort of ignored the stuff that I didn't care about. All right, I'm going to have to get a thinner pen for her face. Zaid Comics, that is Phil Diaz, is in the house. Thanks, Phil, for joining. I appreciate it. Spore Hacker wants to know how's the family. The family is doing well. Shelley's day off, but she's taking a nap right now. And my son's doing well. My daughter's in college, doing well. Last time I talked to her. So Marcus Killigrew wants to know what number of micron. That's a number 8. That's the biggest pen tip without it becoming a brush tip that you can get is an 8. My coloring books don't look as cool as this. You know, those of you who are like been with me on this channel for well, it's been almost 2 years that I've had this channel, know that I was doing some black and white illustrations for a coloring book, and then I opted to, you know, launch a comic, The Wraith of God, rather than the smaller project of the coloring book. But but it's still something I want to do, or I'm not exactly sure anymore how I'm going to actually use those illustrations. Let me see. Jeff Potts says his colored pencils are so old they used to draw pictures of buffalo and deer on cave walls. See, that's the kind of stuff that gets you in trouble on this. I hope that hurt. Yeah, Shelton's like, you're off screen. You're off screen. I know. I'm like trying to watch the camera and while I'm drawing. Spore Hacker, you earned yourself a new subscriber. Thank you, Spore Hacker. Sorry. I appreciate that very much. You know, and now that we brought up, I brought up the coloring book stuff. Let's review if I can find it. Hang on a second. They were right here just a minute ago. So I've got several black and white illustrations, and I was doing them specifically for a coloring book. We'll get back to Gwen's face in just a minute, but you guys got me sidetracked now. You know, that was a joke when I was in grade school. So that's so funny. Last time I heard it, I fell off my dinosaur. That's what you get for that. Spore Hacker says, please call me AJ. I will try and remember that, AJ. All right. So, like, there's one, for example. Okay, this is, let me zoom out. I assume some of you guys have seen these. Maybe some of you have not. This is my warrior chick going through the snow, the Yeti behind her. And yet, what kind of people, what kind of woman dresses like that in, like, 20-degree weather? The kind I draw, that's for sure. So that's one piece I did. And this, of course, was meant to be a coloring book. And what I was going to do was there would be an illustration like this. And on the page facing it, there would be like a little narrative story that sort of described, like a couple paragraphs of a story that would kind of describe the character. Then, of course, this was another piece that was in there. Very John Carter of Marzi. That's John Carter and Deja Thoris fighting a Banff. And maybe some of you may remember this pirate piece. So these are fairly complex drawings, obviously, for a coloring book, but that makes it more fun, right? And then this is actually based on a series concept that I have, kind of a Lord of the Rings type thing that I would love to do, but I don't know. We can only do so much so quickly, even somebody as fast as me. Then I did this like even a while ago. This is like back from 2015, but I love this piece. It's a Red Riding Hood piece. It was one of the first pieces I did for this idea of a coloring book. And this actually, I did let somebody use this in their charity coloring book they made for a kid's hospital or something. But this is one that I was actually going to make, I was going to make a print of this. And I remember I got it flatted, the color, and I was like, no one's going to buy a Red Riding Hood piece. And I thought, I'm just going to save this and use it for something else. And so this is another one that would go in the coloring book. And then I have this piece, which I did about the same. Actually, that was 2 years after. My goodness, really? This was 2015, the Red Riding Hood piece. This is 2017. It's alligator fishing. So obviously this would have a thematically, if I did this book as a book of illustrations with, one-page stories accompanying them, or as a coloring book or something, it would be very eclectic in terms of subject matter. And then I was going to use this. I made a print out of this many years ago. This is from 2009, but it's still one of my favorite pieces. This kind of swamp creature. It's a very simple piece, kind of a vignette, but a lot of fun. And this was, I don't know if I would use this one or not, but this was also a print I did many years ago. So you've got Super Pig, Bat Pig, and Wonder Pig there kind of in the slop. This was a I think I've sold out of this, but this is a print I had many years ago. I thought, oh, you know, it'd be a cute piece for the coloring book. And then this, when I originally launched Garbage Man, the trade paperback has its own crowdfunded thing, and it failed. This was going to be like a limited edition print that you could get with it. That was the whole thing was going to be oversized. It was going to be like 9x12 hardcover. The Garbage Man collection originally was going to be. Now it's printed. It's now out. Dark Horse did it as a trade paperback for me, and I have them available through, as I mentioned earlier in the stream, through my Wraith of God campaign. But you can also get them through Amazon as well if you don't want a signed copy and you don't want to wait a couple more months before the book comes out, because obviously I'm going to mail all this stuff together. But these are available if you want to. Not this print, but the trade paperback is available. So anyway, those are the illustrations that I have for potentially my coloring book or big book of black and white illustrations or whatever. And quite a bit of fun working on these things. And it's, you know, you can spend a lot of time doing detail and stuff. If you look at all the, especially in this, you look at all the detail in the background there, the trees and the leaves and things of that nature. But again, these pieces have no deadline, right? So it's just kind of, I do them and put them together as I had time to do it. And right now I'm completely consumed by Wraith of God, but I'll do more of these and then figure out some way to put them in a book or something. And this was all brush. You can see that line work back in there up in the shadow. Oops, up in the shadowed area there. It's almost all exclusively brush. And I only point that out because I'm exclusively using pen on Wraith of God to get a different look, but this is all brush as well. And it would be a lot of fun to color these pieces, I think. I mean, I would enjoy coloring them. Kind of see what I could come up with. But the book would be printed about this size, you know. And so, you know, if people wanted to computer color them, they could scan the images and color them. Again, this is all brush. Number 2. Raphael Kalinsky is what I use. They're a real nice brush. They don't last incredibly long. Like the old Winsor Newtons used to really last long, but it's hard to find good points on those brushes anymore. The Raphaels have really good, for the most part, really good points, but you don't get the life out of them that I used to be able to get out of the Winsor Newtons. But they're not as expensive as the Winsor Newtons either. So, okay. What about a CG tryout book? That's an interesting idea. The Spore Hacker would buy that book. Well, thank you. I got one sale locked down. Excellent. Well, lots of very nice comments about the artwork. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Addison Reese wants to know how much time I spend on those illustrations. And it, you know, a couple days. It depends. Yeah, you're right. An 8404, he's right, is exactly what it is. The Red Sable Kalinskis. You can get them through Dick Blix. I buy usually like, a pack of 6 or whatever. They're about $16 a piece. Where the Winsor Newtons tend to be up in the 20s, but they're not, like I said, I have a hard time finding good points on those brushes. Those used to be the ones that were totally, that's all I'd get was the Winsor Newtons. But they just, the prints, or pardon me, the points on them were just, somebody told me that whoever rolled the brushes, it was like a family thing, and I have no idea if this is even true. But there's the dog making himself known. But it was like a family that used to roll all the brushes. And they quit doing that, and it became more of a corporate process. Excuse me. So the brush tips and points were not as good. This is something that, started happening in the 90s. The Winsor Newton brushes just were not as good as they used to be. A lot of people use brush pens now, and I haven't gone that route. I've tried a little bit of it for, if I do convention sketches or whatever, if I ever go to a convention again. But I've never actually used one on a piece of art that I was planning on, publishing or something. Okay. I'm not going to do this frame because that needs to be cleaned up, and I want to get some French curves or something to do that, so it's better. But we'll do Peter Parker's face in here. So weird because doing everything on Wraith of God is very rough and sketchy looking, just because that's how that's the feel I want for the book. But then I go back in and do something like this, and it's like super clean and tight. And it's like I have to catch myself when I'm doing the Wraith of God stuff, because I go back to my old ways of keep it clean, keep it clean and tight, and I have to make myself loosen up. That's going to be funny. The next project after I complete and fulfill Wraith of God is going to be, a book with 3 stories. One's going to be Garbage Man, one's going to be Wraith of God, and one's going to be the Nightclub, which is the superhero team that makes its debut in the Garbage Man trade paperback. And stylistically, I'll be doing different things with those projects. So Wraith of God will be, again, kind of rough and sketchy like a spaghetti Western, and Garbage Man will be much cleaner, brush inked, probably. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the Nightclub yet, as that would tend to be a little bit more dark and gritty. So I don't know, but I'll be working in different styles, I can tell you that, and that's going to be odd, But I'll get in one mode and complete the story for, say, Wraith of God, and then I'll jump onto Garbage Man and kind of get into another mode, and so I think once I get in my mind what I'm doing, and then once I complete the story and start a new one, then I can kind of readjust my thinking, and I'll be all right. I'm also going to put I don't know, some of you may have seen or may not have seen my Kit Carter strips that I've done. And they're not completed, at least the first story arc, but they're like newspaper strips or daily strips. There we go. All right. The rest of this you're going to have to wait on. But anyway, the Kit Carter stuff is like daily. Now her sweater is going to be black and her boots are going to be black. And of course that right there will be black in Spider-Man's eye. But what was I talking about? Oh yeah, the Kit Carter. They're like color newspaper strips, like one-page strips, basically. I mean, they're formatted like a comic book page, but that's essentially the idea. And I'm going to put those as a stretch goal. And if we hit the stretch goal, then I'm going to add those. I think I've got maybe 8 of them done right now. And I think would be a total to complete the first storyline or whatever is going to be probably 1, 2, 3, 4 more. So that would be what, about 12, I think, total. So that'll be like 12 more pages added to the as a stretch goal to the next project. So I've got, I got things planned, and all this stuff is going to tie in together to be a single universe. Some kind of Past Master Dan, bot reported. Thank you, sir. Somebody in there's got some of you guys got wrenches, don't you, to kind of take those guys out? So anyway, there you go. So I'll color this. I don't know if I'm going to do a stream where I color it or not. Maybe I will, but I'll definitely show it when it's done. Coloring, usually I can sit down and go and just go through it and get it done in one setting, which I may have to do tomorrow. I'm penciling page 53 right now of Wraith of God, and I got to get it inked this weekend. So I'm not sure how much time I'm going to have to work on this, but I do want to get this done. I hate taking money from people and then making them sit and wait for the commission. I want to get it done and get it out to them, so I don't have to wait very long. So I will find some time to get that finished up. Anyway, so this was a short little live stream. How long have we been on for? Well, almost an hour. So that, it feels like it's got some substance to it. But I just kind of wanted to go over the Gwen Stacey piece with you guys and show you the next step, which was the inking, of course. And then, of course, we got a little sidetracked with the coloring book illustrations, which are always fun, though. It's always fun to kind of crack open the flat files and pull out an envelope and go, what's in here? And go, oh, yeah, I remember these. I got to get back to these. So I was glad I was able to share those with you as well. Anyway, let me say, if you're just now joining or you just now jumped in or whatever, please like and subscribe to the channel. It helps my channel grow, or so that's what everybody says. So and it does make sense, I guess, in the big picture. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys joining me, spend a little time with me. Please check us out Sunday at 5 o'clock Pacific time. That's my regular show, the Aaron Live show that I do with my wife, Shelley, and we always have a lot of fun doing that. I'm not sure exactly what's on the agenda for this weekend, but we'll figure out something. And then I'm also hosting the Professionals next week on Thursday. And I think it's going to be a foodie show. I usually do game shows, trivia stuff, and I might change it up this week and do something food related, like me actually cooking something. And we'll see what the guys can bring to the table, so to speak. And also Comicsgate Kings, if you're so inclined, is on Monday nights with all your favorite creators from the independent market. Usually jump in and have lengthy and conversations about something. So anyway, yeah, he says, I'm telling Aaron's wife what he said last night because I'm that kind of guy. Well, if you're going to start trouble on my show, you're going to get blown up. So just be warned. I speak only the truth, though. So anything you're telling her, she already knows because I don't make stuff up. Spore Hacker, blame me this weekend. I have to work. Well, check it out later. Check us out in reruns. That's the beauty of it. It'll be saved there on my YouTube channel. So you can. Mayfield Jukes, thank you for streaming, Aaron. Always a pleasure. Hey, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it, you guys. So anyway, there you go. That's sort of that's what we got for today. I'm going to get back to work on Wraith of God, and so I can keep that moving forward. I'll keep you guys updated, obviously, as I progress. And we will see you hopefully Sunday night, and if not, somewhere on down the line later. Boy, that was a really horrible sentence. But somewhere later, if not Sunday night, we'll catch you at some point. And I've got some more comics and books coming in the mail, so I'm going to share some of those too when we get those. So a lot of good stuff to look forward to. Thank you all. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll catch you soon.